Hi guys, my name is Amber, and for today's video I'm going to be doing a recent reads video. So I'm going to be talking about, I left like sometime in September, or I stopped doing videos sometime in September, but I'm not going to talk about the books that I read last year because it's just going to be way too many books to talk about, and I already take way too long to talk about things. So I'm just going to talk about the books that I started reading that I've read so far this year, 2020. So just going straight into the video, starting in January, the first book that I read was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. And obviously I can't really talk about what this book is about because this is the third book in the series, and the last book. So I'm just going to talk about what The Cruel Prince is about. So the first book in the series is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and that's about Jude Duarte. And when she was younger, her parents were killed, so then her and her other two sisters moved to the High Court, like end up living in the High Court of Fairy, and they're the only humans, and so like everyone does not like them at all. And so that the Cruel Prince is kind of like Jude trying to like find her place and like prove her worth and prove that she can be like just as awesome as them or whatever. Yeah, I don't know if I explained that well enough, but there's a lot of action. It's really good, and there's like a awesome romance that goes on in this. In this last book, the first 100 pages I was, to be honest, really bored, but then the action starts kicking in and it gets really good, and that's all I can really say about it because I don't want to spoil anything, but it was really good. I gave it 5 stars, obviously, so first 5-star of the year. Alright, so the next book I read was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So I started reading this actually last year, sometime in September or October or something, and I didn't finish it till January, but as you can tell by the 1 million tabs I put on here, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars as well, and literally all I wrote in my Goodreads review was that I wanted Sirius Black to be my godfather, because it just, I mean, I can't really say much about this unless I'm sure everyone's read about this. This is about, this is the 3rd book in the Harry Potter series, and there's not much else to say because, you know, everyone knows about this series, but it was so good, and I'm so ready to read the 4th book, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The next book I don't have, but I'll put a picture here, obviously. This is called Just Lucky by Melanie Florence, and this book I gave 3 stars. So this was an arc I received from NetGalley. This is about a 15-year-old girl named Lucky, and so like her whole life she's been raised by her grandparents, but then her grandfather passes away, and then her grandmother like just starts becoming incapable of taking care of her. And so her grandmother actually like accidentally sets the house on fire, and that's when, what is it called, DCF or whatever, like starts to notice, and they're like, okay, this child cannot be under the care of this lady anymore because she was just incapable of taking care of herself, let alone a child. So then Lucky ends up getting like moved from foster home to foster home, and so this whole book is just her experience at this age, like being moved from house to house and not having a stable environment. And I gave it a 3 because it was okay, like it was nothing outstanding. When I read that summary or whatever, when I requested it from NetGalley, I was really like excited because I sounded like a cool contemporary, like a hard-hitting contemporary, like, and it somewhat was, but like it was, I don't know, when I read it, it wasn't outstanding. Nothing jumped out to me. I wasn't like, whoa, this is the best book ever, like, oh my gosh. Like, it was just okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best thing ever, so I gave it 3 stars. Okay, moving on to the next book. These are all, again, I'm still in January. The next book I read was Credence by Penelope Douglas, and this book I gave 4 stars. So I'm going to read off of like the little summary thing that I wrote because I'm really liking how I worded everything, and I don't want to like mess it up. But this is about Tiernan, and both of her parents have passed away, and so she goes to live with her father's stepbrother and his 2 sons in the mountains of Colorado. And then as the 3 of them take her like under their wing, and they like teach her how to work and survive all in the woods away from the rest of the world, and then she slowly starts to find her place among them. And because originally she was just like, you know, she didn't talk, she didn't really, I don't know how to explain it, like she didn't have a good relationship with her parents, and so she didn't really have any good relationships with like anyone. And so then she starts to find herself when she goes to this, you know, to the mountains with these men, and along the way, along with finding herself, there's some romance, you know, obviously, and I don't know what else to say without spoiling it. So other than that, it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I took off 1 star because honestly the whole villain thing was kind of annoying and was just kind of seemed like it was thrown in there to like have, you know, something bad happen. But yeah, other than that, it was pretty good. The romance was really cute. Well, it wasn't that cute, it was pretty intense, but like, you know what I mean. Also, it was kind of cute. But yeah, that's that on that. Then I read another book called All in Pieces by Suzanne Young, and I gave it 3 stars. And this book is about Savannah as she struggles to care for her disabled brother since her mom left, and then her dad is like an alcoholic, so they both don't really take care of him, so then she's stuck with taking care of him. But then as well, she's also dealing with, you know, being in high school, trying to pass high school, and then dealing with, you know, high school drama and all that. And along the way she meets this guy and yada yada yada, it goes from there, you know, like a little romance happens between them. I read this book originally because I got it from Book Outlet, and I remember getting it from Book Outlet for like super cheap, and so I was like, hey, like, it's contemporary, whatever, like it seemed kind of interesting, barely, and I was like, honestly, I'll just throw it into my cart. And so I saw it on my bookshelf. It was a short book, and I was like, hey, I'll just read it. And I read it, and it was alright. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't all that. It wasn't anything special. Just okay. So I gave it 3 stars, and I ended up unhauling it later on because I was just like, nah, wasn't all that. It was cute, but it was just like basic and nothing special. Alright, so that's the end of January. Then in February, I read nothing. Love that for me. But then in March, I started off with After We Fell and After Ever Happy by Anna Todd. Yeah. These are the 3rd and 4th books in this After series. Now before you like click off and you're like, what the heck is this girl doing reading that? And everyone like talks about how trashy it is and everything. I read it when it first was out on Wattpad, and so I was a kid. I don't know what I was doing reading that, but I read it back then, and I've just always had like an attachment to it. When I read it, I definitely see how cringy it is and how bad it is, but like there's something there that I'm still like, oh, like it just gives me memories from when I was younger, and so like I'm attached to it, and I read it like very lightheartedly. Is that a word? Lightheartedly. I try not to think too much into the details and everything of it, you know. I just kind of read it for fun, really. But to explain what After is, if you guys don't know what that is about, After is about Tessa, and she's like all innocent and she's never done anything, and she's like, oh my gosh, perfect, whatever. And she goes to college, and it's her freshman year, and then she meets Hardin, and her world is like wrecked from there, and her life is like never the same after they've met. And yeah, that's the gist of it. Do I suggest reading it? Probably not, but if you don't mind some very trashy romance, go for it if you want to go into it for that. But yeah, I rated After We Fell with a 4 star, and then I rated After Ever Happy, the last book, with 5 stars because I just really enjoyed the ending. Alright, so the next book I read was Eliza Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, and so this book I gave 4 stars, and it's about Eliza and how she's famous. She has like a webcomic online, but on the webcomic she goes under like an alias. She doesn't show her real name, or she doesn't have her real identity online or anything. So you know, she kind of leaves that stuff for online, and she leaves her real life for her real life. And in real life, she doesn't really have like much friends. She's not as popular or nothing. She's kind of like a nobody, like nobody really notices her or nothing. Then online, she's obviously like super famous. But then one day, a new kid comes to her school, and this guy, he like is a big fan of her webcomic, and obviously nobody knows who the author is. Like, they don't know that she's the creator of that world, and so they become friends, and they like talk about how they both like it or whatever, but she never mentions that she's the like creator of it, and then the story kind of goes on from there. But I gave it 4 stars. It was really good, but it wasn't like 5-star good enough, if you know what I mean. It was just a good contemporary that I suggest reading. It just wasn't 5-star quality in my mind or anything. And next we have Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. So this is the second book in the Children of Blood and Bone series, I guess you would call it. So obviously I can't really tell you what this one is about, but I gave this one 4.5 stars. But first I'll explain what the Children of Blood and Bone is about. So this book starts off with Zelly, and it's just showing her right now. It's just like there's no magic, and there used to be magic, and right now she's motherless. She just has her father and her brother, and that's all because of the king. And so the king put out these orders and was like, hey, we need to like destroy magic, like because of fear. They were really scared of the magi, and they don't want them to overpower them. He's like, I'm the king, I don't want you guys to overpower me. So he like destroyed magic and like killed a bunch of the magi, which is what they call the people who have magic. And one of those people being Zelly's mom. So Zelly just has like this vengeance, and so when she gets the opportunity to be able to bring back magic and, you know, fight for the magi, she takes it, of course. And so this book just follows her. She's trying to bring back magic, and it is so good. I loved it so much. I gave the first book, I think, 4.75, but that's just because it took me so long to read it for some reason. And the same thing happened with this one. It kind of took me so long. The beginning, I would say, like the first 100 pages or so, I was super bored. It was just kind of coming back, I guess, from after that last book. And so, I don't know, I was just like ready to get into the action, and there was like a bunch of names and stuff, and they were like bringing a bunch of side characters, and I was like, bro, like, get into the romance and the action. But then once those first 100 pages passed, it was like super good and super intense, and I loved it so much, and that ending literally killed me. So I'm super ready for the next book, or I don't know if it's a trilogy or not, if it's whatever, just the next book. I'm super excited. Highly suggest starting this series. And lastly, the last book I don't own, but of course, again, I'll put a picture. This is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, and this book I gave 3 stars. So this book is about Jordan, and so Jordan and her boyfriend end up moving in with her boyfriend's dad just because of certain circumstances. They end up having to move in with her boyfriend's dad. And then from there, she kind of like gets to know the dad, and she starts to like fall for him. And so then the book just kind of follows them through that, and like their morals, and they're like, is this right, is this wrong, or whatever. I think Penelope Douglas like did this pretty well. Like, she made it not too weird or anything for the readers or whatever. I went into this because I read Credence in January, so I was like, I want to read more of Penelope Douglas's work because a lot of people were like really hyping it up. And so I gave it 3 stars because although I like really enjoyed it, I just felt like something about it was unoriginal. Like, I don't know, even though that's like a really original, you know, plot or whatever, but it didn't feel original. I was like, okay, like maybe because there's like a lot of basic tropes or whatever, so I was just like, and I feel like they weren't done uniquely or anything. Another factor that I think really affected my rating was the fact that like it was super hyped up, so I went into it like super pumped up, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be the best book ever, like, whoa, I'm so excited. And it was just like, I was like, oh, it was okay, like it wasn't bad or anything, it was just like, it was okay, it wasn't anything like special or anything in my opinion. Another factor also was just like the fact that the ending felt super rushed. It ended with the happy ending, we'll say, and she just like kind of gave us everything we wanted in like really fast in the matter of like 5 pages, and gave us the perfect happy ending. And I was like, okay, like what just happened? Why did she just do all that in like 5 pages? So yeah, that was another thing that I was like, what? So that's the last book I've officially read like of this year. So this year I've read 10 books, which I'm pretty proud of myself because I don't think I've read that much in the first 3 months of the year. So that I feel like I'm doing pretty good. Although on Goodreads, my goal I think is like 60 or 65, and it says I'm like 5 books behind. So we're gonna try to use this month to catch up on that with the owls and everything. I really hope you enjoyed hearing my opinions and all that on all these books, and I hope you got some thoughts on what you should do about these books, like if you should read them or if you shouldn't. Can't wait to see you guys in my next video, and bye.